So the bankers on Main Street will feel more comfortable about making loans because, and they will feel more comfortable about investing and extending credit amongst themselves, because Banking 101, as a bank takes in deposits, they don't just take that deposit and put it into their safe. They take that money, they make loans to the neighbors down the road to buy their house, to buy a car, to the business in the industrial park that needs to open up and operate. So those deposits that you've put into the bank aren't sitting there waiting for you to withdraw. They're out in the economy stimulating economic activity. So we want to make sure that the financial markets are secure and stable, and I think that's what the effort and the hope was. It will come home to roost with us because by investing in taking these questionable investments, these problem loans that were on books of some of the financial institutions, by taking them off the bank's books, it stabilizes their financial health. And that makes them, that's going to allow them to feel comfortable and confident in making their investments and extending credit to other banks and to the economy.
What kind of advice could you give an average Mainer in this economic crisis who may not be feeling it right now, but wants to be economic sustainable in the future?
I think a lot of it gets down to just making smart investments and being smart with your money, and not living beyond your means. We talk about the old traditional credit definitions that you don't want to take on more debt than you can pay for. You want to avoid being in a situation where you're living paycheck to paycheck, that you have savings that you can fall back on so that if something does happen from an employment perspective or from a major health issue, that you have financial resources to fall back on to cover and to cover those costs. Right. Those would be some of the general suggestions, I guess, that I would throw out. Unfortunately, a lot of us have kind of lived beyond our means over the last 10 to 15 years. Credit has been readily available, and people have gone out and borrowed to live the lifestyle that they wanted to live. And that was great, but now we have to pay for that. And so that's really where the challenge is, I think, for all of us going forward, is making sure that we're smart with our money, that we try to save some money, that we can pay for what we borrow. It's like the old, all of our grandparents used to talk about coming out of, anybody who's known somebody who's come out of the Depression, they never borrowed money. They didn't want to have credit. They always wanted to save and pay cash for things. Our generation kind of has lost sight of that. And it's a tough way to learn that lesson, but hopefully we can walk away from this and be better financial people.
Right. What has the Biddeford-Saco Area Economic Development Corporation specifically done to create and retain quality jobs, as well as to capture a new investment in the community?
Our organization is really a financial, I should say it's a non-bank financial institution. As a nonprofit, we have federal and state funds, mostly grants, that we've attracted to the organization, and those are our lending assets. And all total, we've got about $3.8 million in grants and some loans from the federal and state government, even a little bit from the local governments. And that's our pool of assets that we lend to the business community. Over the 16 or so years that our organization has been in operation, we've made loans to over 100 different businesses in the communities, and that has been approximately $8 million that we've lent out in the local economy. That's created almost 400 jobs and stimulated, off the top of my head, I think the figure is right around $58 million in economic private investment in the local economy. Our focus is direct loans to businesses that could not otherwise accomplish what they want to accomplish through normal conventional funding sources, which would be banks. So when Phil Farron down at Saco and Biddeford Savings has a deal. He's looking at it and says, gee, Saco and Biddeford Savings really wants to do this deal, but we aren't willing to lend the full amount that they're asking for. And the business owner comes in and says, well, I only have $50,000 to invest in this project. And it's all total, it's an $800,000 deal to build a new building in the industrial park. And Phil looks at it and says, well, all I'm willing to lend you is $600,000 because of the collateral and the credit analysis that goes into it from a bank perspective. There's a $150,000 gap there. That's when our organization can step in and provide some additional funding or lending to the project so that the business can build the building. The bank closes the loan, and in a manner of speaking, we function as a guarantee. We take some of the risk from the bank's perspective so that the bank feels more confident doing the loan. They only have $600,000 at risk. And I'm kind of getting over the top of everything, but to really simplify it, the bank feels that that's a reasonable risk. And if the business failed and they had to sell the building and liquidate the assets and liquidate the business assets, they probably would get their $600,000 back. We would be at risk for not being covered. But that's what we're here to do, is to take that risk so the bank will make the investment and the business can open and operate in the industrial park or on downtown, on Main Street in downtown Saco. So,
Mr. Armitage, thank you for coming on the program.
thank you.
Thank you. With that, we're going to take a short break, but when the issue returns, we're going to continue to delve into the economic crisis and see how it's affecting you. Welcome back to The Issue. I'm Justin Schnepp. Before we get to our next guest, I would like to take this time to clearly define what a Chamber of Commerce is. This is taken directly from our local chamber's website. A local chamber of commerce is a voluntary federation of the business community uniting the efforts of business and professional individuals to ensure a healthy economic base to benefit the entire community. The chamber harnesses the tremendous potential of the private enterprise system and enables its membership to accomplish collectively what no one can do individually. My guest is President of the Biddeford Chamber of Commerce, Bernard Featherman. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. I'm very delighted to be here today.
Great. Mr. Featherman, as you know, America is facing a national economic crisis. In this year alone, over 605,000 jobs have been lost. Millions upon millions of Americans are losing their homes to foreclosure because they can't afford their mortgages, and banks are hesitant to lend out money. From your perspective, is this national crisis, how does it affect local businesses and individual citizens here in the Saco community and the Biddeford community?
First of all, if it's passed, it doesn't mean that it's going to be good and permanent. It may blow out after a year. There may be pork belly things added into funding where each state, as they cut back on the amount of monies they have, they'll cut back on jobs. And this is being done now in Massachusetts, where they've just stated that they're going to cut back several $100 million in services that the state does. Here in the city, if they don't get the monies, they can cut back on the services in Saco and Biddeford. Not that they want to do it, but if you don't have money in the kitty, where are you going to get the money to pay people? So that means they've got to temporarily at least lay off people to do things. It could be collecting trash. It could be a clerk in an office. It could even be people that are teaching school.
Okay. What is the Chamber of Commerce specifically doing to help foster economic stability and promote job creation here in the community?
Well, I'll give you a good instance of what happened here. I'm working with a company now to bring them into Saco. I don't know whether it'll occur because we have something where they are going to open up an operation for $20 million and build sports cars and coupes. And they had funding available up till about a week to 10 days ago when this happened. Now, we don't know if that money's going to come through or not, but they would employ people, 50 people at one time to start off. And then after a year of the plant being open, they would have 100 people working. And we have to bring in jobs that are high-tech jobs, jobs where we can get more money for our people getting out into the workforce. And it's important that we do this because we don't want to lose the people we have in our state to go elsewhere for jobs. So we really have to look out to where can we bring business that pays higher priced wages into our own community. And we've been trying to do that. We have a rope factory that's opened up in Biddeford. They employ about 40 or 45 people, and they're expanding. Their average pay, I say average, is a breakout at about $12.50 an hour plus fringes. Fringes can run 30%. So we do have people that are no longer looking at a minimum wage, but above the minimum wage, where it gives us an inducement to stay here in our own community instead of going elsewhere.
Okay, Mr. Featherman, thank you so much for
You're
coming on the
welcome.
program.
I'm sorry if I overstated a little bit here.
That was great. With that, we're going to take a short break, but when the issue returns, we're going to continue to delve into the issue of the economic crisis.